His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends cables of greetings, a cable of condolences, and receives a cable of thanks. The Ministry of Health affirms the increase in the number of doctors, nurses, and beds in hospitals to combat future spread of the virus, while 1 million vaccine doses are given to the targeted categories. And the Ministry of Transport, Communications and Information Technology affirms that the decision to suspend flights to some countries does not include some categories such as citizens, health workers, cargo and transit flights. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq has sent a cable of greetings to His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, Emir of Qatar, on the anniversary of His Highness's accession to the throne. His Majesty the Sultan sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency Filipe Nyusi, President of Mozambique, on his country's independence anniversary. His Majesty sent a similar cable to His Excellency Borut Pahor, President of Slovenia, on his country's independence anniversary. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq has sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency Zoran Milanovic, President of Croatia, on his country's National Day. His Majesty the Sultan has sent a cable of condolences to His Excellency President Rodrigo Duterte of Philippines on the death of the former President of Philippines, Benigno Aquino. And His Majesty received a cable of thanks from His Excellency Dr. Bashar al-Assad, President of Syria, in reply to His Majesty's greetings cable on him being re-elected as President of the country. His Excellency Sayyid Badr bin Hamad bin Hamoud al-Busaidi, the Foreign Minister, expressed hope that the new Israeli government would embrace the vision of peace, aiming at taking tangible steps that meets with the aspirations of the Palestinian people to establish their independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital. His Excellency emphasized on the foundations of Omani peace policy known in this context. This came during a phone call His Excellency received from Yair Lapid, the Foreign Minister of Israel, on the occasion of taking charge of Foreign Ministry as part of the new government formation in Israel. His Excellency Dr. Ahmed bin Mohammed Al-Saidi, Minister of Health, confirms that the number of doctors, nurses and ICU beds has increased to combat the growing number of COVID-19 cases, and more than 1 million dosages were administered to targeted categories.
The number of vaccine we received till yesterday in Oman is 1,515,130 doses. The administered doses 1,008,251. This wave in Oman has been the worst, the longest lasting, and the highest number. Unfortunately, the healthcare facilities in Oman are saturated. I will give you just numbers to think of. Before this pandemic started, we had 144 to 148 ICU beds in the whole country at the government sector. Today we have 464 patients of COVID only in the intensive care units. So if we did enlarge our capacity, we employed more than 560 doctors, more than 2,000 nurses since the pandemic started, even though there is severe competition for healthcare staff worldwide.
His Excellency Engineer Salim bin Mohammed Al-Nuaimi, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Transport, Communications and Information Technology for Transport and the Acting Head of Civil Aviation Authority, affirmed that the decision to suspend flight to some countries does not include some categories such as citizens, health workers, cargo and transit flights. His Excellency also pointed out that all passengers in Muscat International Airport are subject to the preventive measures. At the press conference, Brigadier Mohammed bin Nasser Al-Kindi, Director General of Operations at the Royal Oman Police, stressed that citizens and residents have showed adherence and commitment to implementation of precautionary measures. He pointed out, however, that some violations were recorded related to gatherings and violations at commercial establishments. With regard exempted during ban on movement and lockdown, he said that there is cooperation between Royal Oman Police and other bodies concerned to facilitate the works of such categories, especially delivery services, as per procedures made by other bodies concerned. The Director General of Commerce at the Ministry of Commerce and Industry and Investment Promotion, Mubarak bin Mohammed al-Dawhani, stated that a technical team has joined forces with the government authorities to monitor the adherence of the commercial establishments and their roles in implementing all precautionary measures to mitigate further spread of the pandemic. He also mentioned that a team was assembled to work for the committee in charge of dealing with the spread of COVID-19 and has discovered some commercial establishments that violated the precautionary measures and were dealt with accordingly. Some were given a warning while others were suspended. He also said that the majority of commercial establishments are adhering to the measures set by the authorities and are committed to all means to avoid further lockdowns. The Director of Infectious Diseases Control at the Ministry of Health, Badr bin Saif al-Rawahi, has affirmed in the press conference that the number of vaccine doses given until yesterday is 1,800,251, which add up to 23% of the targeted community. He also stated that more categories will be targeted in the next phase of the vaccination campaign that will start from July. The Ministry of Health reported 32 deaths, 1,886 cases, and 1,733 recoveries. It also said that the total number of COVID-19 cases registered in the Sultanate reached 256,542, while the total number of deaths reached 2,848. The total recovered cases reached 224,077. The ministry indicated that the number of inpatients in intensive care units reached 464. As part of the ongoing national vaccination campaign, the Ministry of Health today started vaccinating employees of the Ministry of Information.
The Ministry of Information, in cooperation with the Ministry of Health, organized today a vaccination campaign of the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine for the Ministry's employees and the audio and print media institutions at the Ministry's Digital Studios complex. This campaign coincides with the vaccination campaign for those who deserve the first dose of anti-coronavirus for employees of the state administrative apparatus and in the interest of the Ministry of Information for the safety and health of its employees and those who work in various media institutions in the Sultanate for their great efforts in covering all daily events and emphasizing their roles in conveying the realistic image in conjunction with other relevant government efforts. Today's vaccination campaign at the Ministry of Information witnessed a great turnout by employees and media professionals from various media institutions in the Sultanate, noting that the target number is up to 1,100 employees with the availability of a medical team equipped with full readiness to deal with emergency cases. The team calls on all target groups to take the initiative and speed up taking the vaccine and not pay attention to rumors, stressing the safety of the vaccine in addition to adhering to the preventive measures, wearing masks and social distancing.
As the national vaccination campaign gaining momentum in the Sultanate, Royal Oman Police also joined to vaccinate its staff and completed administering the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. More details in the following report by First Lieutenant Saeed bin Salim Al-Mahrizi.
The medical task forces completed the first dose to vaccinate Royal Oman Police staff against COVID-19 virus as a part of a partnership between ROP's Directorate General of Medical Service and the Ministry of Health.
Royal Oman Police field vaccination campaign for its staff against COVID-19 is going continuously successful.
And in order to ensure that the whole workforce is vaccinated against COVID-19, medical task force have been visiting all geographical commands fields of ROP in a specific time frame, with following the preventive measures in the place for public safety.
Actually, the vaccine is one of the ways to control the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, it is a safe and effective way to provide protection to the individual and society.
In this context, the Royal Oman Police will ensure to vaccinate its staff with the second dose, since they are on the front line of the fight against COVID-19. Furthermore, they ensure that their national and policing activities and duties are carried out in tandem with those of other concerned authorities, ensuring that the Sultanate and its people kept safe and secure. Royal Oman Police persistence to continue the field vaccination campaign aims to deliver a safer and healthier environment for its staff members, enabling them to perform their duties effectively and with no harm. From the ROP's hospital, this is First Lieutenant Saeed bin Salim al-Mharzi, Governorate of Muscat.
Still to come in our news bulletin. A 37-year-old Egyptian single mother turned a bus into a home to escape the hefty rent fees. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. An Israeli Defense Ministry body advanced plans for 31 West Bank settlement construction projects yesterday, the first such move under the country's new government. The plans approved by the civil administration include a shopping center, a special needs school, and a number of infrastructure projects and zoning changes in existing West Bank settlements. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett's new government was sworn in earlier this month, unseating longtime leader Benjamin Netanyahu after 4 deadlocked elections. Ahmed Addiq, political advisor to the Palestinian Foreign Ministry, today called on the UN Security Council to condemn the move. Most of the international community considers Israeli settlement construction illegal under international law and an obstacle to peace with the Palestinians. Since Israel captured the territory in the 1967 Mideast War, it has constructed dozens of settlements in the West Bank, where more than 400,000 Israelis live alongside nearly 3 million Palestinians. The Palestinians seek the West Bank as the heartland of a future independent state. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres today defended migration, calling it necessary and an important contribution, but needed to be properly managed. Guterres was speaking in Brussels alongside EU Parliament President David Sassoli, giving the example of his 98-year-old sick mother who receives 24-hour care at her home in Lisbon. Guterres said many of those carers are not Portuguese. Sassoli, meanwhile, addressed the brewing crisis in the bloc with countries like Hungary and Poland, whose conservative nationalist and anti-migrant governments have flouted the EU's democratic standards and values for years. Overwhelmed with the cost of rent, an Egyptian single mother decided to find a better living arrangement. 37-year-old Yara Shalabi turned a bus into a home to escape the hefty rent fees. The rally driver said she always liked camping in the desert, but her trips would always be limited by how long the food supplies would last. For the past 5 months, Shalabi had been seeking the services of various workshops to complete the work on the bus. She started moving into the bus this week and will gradually move all her belongings to the bus turned home over the next 2 months. Egypt has seen a price hike in the real estate sector in the past 10 years, making it more challenging for poor and middle-class families to own apartments. Shalabi has been paying rent for years now. With this move, she is hoping to buy an apartment for her 11-year-old son in the near future. The idea of living on a bus or a caravan is not common in Egypt. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends cables of greetings, a cable of condolences, and receives a cable of thanks. The Ministry of Health affirms the increase in the number of doctors, nurses, and beds in hospitals to combat future spread of the virus, while 1 million vaccine doses are given to the targeted categories. And the Ministry of Transport, Communications and Information Technology affirms that the decision to suspend flight to some countries does not include some categories such as citizens, health workers, cargo and transit flights. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night and stay safe.